What's up, Culturalists? It's your favorite cat in the hat, CJ Williams, and we're back with what is sure to be a contentious ranking. So yeah, let's address the elephant in the room. We love Elle Boogie and everything she's done for music, but Miseducation is more melody and neo-soul than it is hip-hop, so we'll be giving it an honorable mention on this one. I know, it hurt me too. With that out the way, let's see whose albums have been worth remembering 25 years later. Number 10, still standing. CeeLo, T-Mo, Cujo, and Big Gip remind listeners they're still 10 toes down for the Dungeon family on their second outing. With Organized Noise handling the majority of the production, it's no surprise that the Outcast assisted Black Ice would peak at number 50 on the Hot 100. Cool Breeze, Lil Will, and others would form a decent supporting cast, but the Mob commanded the focus for the entirety of their 15-track LP. Standouts include Beautiful Skin, the aforementioned Black Ice, and Inshallah. Through their melodic delivery and assortment of coordinated flows, Goodie Mob was running a triangle offense that would make Phil Jackson proud. This balance was achieved through CeeLo's elevated role on the mic, singing and experimenting with harmonies more following Soul Food. Enjoying moderate commercial success, the album would grab a gold plaque. Being viewed as a step down from their debut, this one fell short for us due to its lack of long-lasting influence and limited replay value. Still, top 10 isn't bad. The group never officially disbanded despite several extended gaps in between releases. Their most recent release, 2020 Survival Kit, would receive decent reviews. Also worth mentioning, the album sports features from Big Boy and Andre 3000 on back-to-back songs, sans any Outcast labeling though. If you've been keeping up with Goodie Mob throughout the years, let us know down in the comments how you think their music has progressed. Should they get their own ranking one of these days? Okay, let's get back to the list. Number 9, Method Man, Takao 2000. M-E-T-H-O-D, Man? Johnny Blaze's 4-year absence is marked with the same dystopian, post-apocalyptic messaging that many rappers had adopted before the coming of Y2K.
There's only 5 years left. Remember that, nigga.
Debuting at number 2 behind 411,000 copies in its first week, we think Meth was happy the world wasn't ending yet. Through an abundance of skits and features, the album balloons to an inexcusable 28 tracks. We get some big names for sure, including D'Angelo, Left Eye, Mobb Deep, and Redman, but we also get 7 appearances from Street Life among other Wu-Tang affiliates. Strangely enough, Meth's partner in rhyme, Reggie Nobles, would only contribute 1 feature, despite the duo releasing an entire collab album the following year. We're also scratching our heads as to why Meth would have Janet appear for a skit, but not enlist vocals from one of music's greatest artists. The world may never know. As previously mentioned, the final cut of the album would stretch out to 28 tracks, which rarely ever bodes well for whoever's name is on the album cover. But the sequencing of said 28 tracks is probably what's most off-putting. D'Angelo doesn't come through the speakers until the 25th song on the album. The middle of the project feels like every other song is a skit, and the posse cuts aren't given the proper room to shine. Granted, we know this album came during a slump for the Clan. It just bothers us because we see all the elements for a classic 90s record without the execution. RZA would lend his services behind the boards on 4 of the album's songs. We get some Inspector Deck production on 2 tracks. Even Havoc gets busy with production on Play for Keeps. Ultimately, we have to tip our hats because even this middle-of-the-road Wu-Tang entry is more than enough to make a year-end list. Number 8, Gang Starr, Moment of Truth. Widely regarded as Gang Starr's magnum opus, Moment of Truth sees their conscious brand of hip-hop shining through as a beacon of light in a dreary and depleted hip-hop scene. We're talking about the tone throughout the industry, not the quality of the music, by the way. Guru and Premier strap in for the album's 20-track duration with a few features scattered throughout. Shout out to KC and JoJo, Inspector Deck, and MOP. Not to mention the legend himself, Brad Jordan, aka Scarface. Moment of Truth would be the group's most commercially successful album to date, selling nearly 100,000 copies in its first week. While we have no complaints as far as the production of the album goes, we would be doing the community a disservice if we didn't talk about Guru's rapping on here. In a year where so many artists and groups were redefining their approach to boom bap, Gang Starr and Black Star find themselves competing in the boom bap Super Bowl. Guru's advancement of conscious and jazz rap will never fully be appreciated for what it was, but his lyricism and delivery left a lot to be desired.
The illest one, I'm almost doper than anyone.
Perhaps. Maybe it's unfair to compare him to the likes of a Talib Kweli or a Yasin Bey, but in a competition sport like rap, the comparisons make themselves. Ultimately, it just makes us question what could have happened had these parties switched things up a bit. Would a Mos Def circle 1990s before the name change and DJ Premier collab sounded anything like a Gang Starr album? What kind of sound could High Tech have crafted with Guru? What kind of trajectory would Talib Kweli have been on had this formula been altered? Better yet, what y'all think about the posthumous Gang Starr joint Business or Art featuring Kweli? Let us know about all that down in the comments. Number 7, Busta Rhymes, Extinction Level Event. Remember that apocalyptic / end of the world theme we were just talking about?
There is only 1 year left.
Wow, that's cool. I can't hardly wait.
We don't know anybody who built around that better than Busta, even enlisting the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, on This Means War, a track Busta produced, by the way. Speaking of features, we see Busta one-upping Meth by securing the Janet feature, in addition to appearances by the Flipmo Squad and Mystical. The album is far from perfect, but joints like Just Give It To Me Raw, Give Me Some More, and What's It Gonna Be capture Busta's explosive nature and ability to make hits like few other songs could. The album would get Bust mad love at the 42nd Grammy Awards, securing nominations for Best Rap Album, Best Rap Solo Performance, and Best Rap Performance by a Duo or Group. He didn't walk away with any wins, but that's beside the point. Peaking at number 12 on the Billboard 200, Extinction Level Event would be certified platinum just over 3 weeks after its release. Busta brought his trademark brand of head-popping excitement and creativity, but the writing didn't compare to his previous releases. The lack of songwriting, coupled with a variety of subgenres flourishing, relegates this one to the bottom half of our rankings. Number 6, JayZ, Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. JZ's third studio album is a drastic departure from his earlier works, but we're here for it. Let's accentuate the positives real quick. Hard Knock Life is still a staple in Hov's catalog. We hear one of the 3 collabs between him and DMX in X's lifetime, and the chemistry between Jay and Jadakiss on Reservoir Dogs is the type of criminally underrated material that makes hip-hop one of music's best genres. Oh, and Volume 2 is still Hov's best-selling album, currently sitting at 6 times platinum. The negatives, there's only 2 songs without a feature, and one of them is Ride or Die. The album also doesn't showcase Jay's storytelling, instead opting for a more commercially digestible sound. The downside to that being a lot of what was commercially viable in the late 90s hasn't aged the best. The production on this one is also choppy and disjointed, with over a dozen hands being involved in the album's 14 tracks. Volume 2 would see the door closing on Jay and Jaz-O's working relationship, but see a window cracked with the emergence of key Rockefeller players Beanie Siegel, Memphis Bleek, and Emil, all appearing on their first album together. While the gritty hustler music that dominates most of Hard Knock Life's runtime is a better accompaniment to Jay's style, we gotta admit that the step backwards from the flashy bad boy sound on Volume 1 was quite abrupt, essentially painting Jay out to be the indecisive biter he would label Nas in their beef a few years later. Jay and Mark the 4-5 King deserve innumerable flowers for their reimagining of Annie's Hard Knock Life, yet none of that creativity spread to the rest of the album. We're still spinning Money Cash Hoes, A Week Ago, and Reservoir Dogs, but if you could see how fast we hit the skip button on tracks like Ride or Die, Can I Get Her, or It's Alright, you would think we had a vendetta against Hov. Blame the writer, not the messenger. Anyone who claimed Volume 2 wasn't a top 10 album of '98 might need to give it another spin. Same could be said for anyone who had it landing in their top 5. Number 5, Juvenile, 400 Degrees. Coming out of Magnolia, Juvenile and
Cash Money Records taking over for the 99 in the 2000s.
With this ranking's most underrated album, no question. With influence decades ahead of its time, Juvie, Manny Fresh, and a teenage Wayne would give us arguably the quintessential club anthem. And we've been running to the dance floor ever since. While we're on record stating Birdman should never be in the same room as a microphone, Manny and Wayne could make you forget he was even on a bop like Flossin' Season. Everything about this album screams bling rap even before the term was popularized. The Manny Fresh production, scattered Wayne features, even the iconic pen and pixel cover art have helped to immortalize one of hip-hop's most timeless records. Grading on a bit of a curve, the Cash Money team was never marketed for their lyricism. With tracks like Back That Ass Up, Run For It, and 400 Degrees, Juvie and the rest of the label made their mark regardless. Did we mention Jigga hopping on the Hob remix might be the most random feature of his career? Actually, on second thought,
that was on and popping, dropping hotter than platinum bracelets. Jigga, R. Kelly, changing faces.
This would be the first time Cash Money collaborated with an East Coast rapper, making way for a long-standing love-hate relationship between Hov, Wayne, Birdman, and the Cash Money record label. Let us know down in the comments if there's a record you think deserves to get played in the club over Back That Ass Up. Number 4, DMX, It's Dark and Hell Is Hot. Darkman X had one of the most impactful debuts in hip-hop history, and it's not up for debate. Coming through at number 1 after selling 250,000 in its first week, X will put the whole world on notice with his quadruple platinum record. The Darkman, born Earl Simmons, came out of the gate with uninhibited emotion and transparency on records, assuring audiences they could be themselves unapologetically. Earl is the only artist coming out of the 90s who could put Rough Riders Anthem, How's It Going Down, and Crime Story on the same album without raising an eyebrow. But that second verse on X is coming. If you know, you know. If we're being honest, is there a few skips? Sure. But when you command the mic like Earl, album cuts like Look Through My Eyes and Niggas Done Started Something erase any doubts about the '98 classic. Despite being 19 17 songs deep and posting a runtime north of an hour, Hell is Hot sports very few features as to keep the focus on X throughout. Now when you ask people about DMX production, the first name that comes to mind of course is Swizz Beatz. Yet he's only got one track on X's debut. It just so happened to be one of the biggest hits of his career. DMX would drop Flesh of My Flesh about 7 months after Hell is Hot. This album would also debut at #1, more than doubling its first week sales. These back-to-back #1s would make X the second rapper to debut atop the charts twice in the same calendar year. Impact, influence, and versatility score X above the albums we've named so far, but there was still a gap between him and this year's best efforts. Before we get to the top 3, there's a few honorable mentions we wanted to point out. So in case you thought these were coming up, they not. But shout out to X's Flesh of My Flesh, AZ's Pieces of Man, Capadonna's The Pillage, and pick 1 or 2 of the top No Limit albums on their historic run this year. Basically, the year was stacked, but only 10 could make it. Throw us a few down in the comments we may have missed. Okay, now to the top 3. Number 3, Big Pun, Capital Punishment. The Punisher's lyrical onslaught gave birth to one of hip-hop's most painful examples of potential gone too soon. Following in the footsteps of Biggie and Big L, Capital Punishment would be the only solo work Pun would release in his lifetime. Like the legends that preceded him, Pun wouldn't leave any room for doubt. Features from Black Thought, Prodigy, Joe, and Fat Joe, no relation, ensured the supporting cast had this one on lock. We're just wondering why Pun didn't get a verse out of Busta. Capital Punishment would be the first solo Latin hip-hop record to go platinum. Additionally, it would snag a nomination for Best Rap Album at the 99 Grammys, eventually losing out to Hove. On a side note, those Grammys were crazy. Outcast lost to the Beastie Boys, Hard Knock Life lost to Getting Jiggy With It.
Fuck this, man. I'm out of here.
Back to Pun. While we concede that the album could have cut a skit or 2 from the track list, and Pun's lyrical blitz left a lot to be desired regarding artistry, the album has something for everyone. Hip-hop peers can rest comfortably knowing that Pun and Fat Joe had one of the most explosive lyrical sparring matches we've ever heard on wax. Fans with their ear to the radio couldn't get enough of Still Not a Player, while everyone listening for intricate deliveries and dense subject matter can find it in abundance on the record's other 24 cuts. Don't take us awarding Capital Punishment the bronze medal as a knock on the project. It just dropped in a year with once-in-a-lifetime competition. Number 2, Mos Def and Talib Kweli, Black Starr. Possibly the quintessential boom bap album, Mos Def, now Yasin Bey, and Talib Kweli channel their inner Marcus Garvey in their best attempt to take us back to Africa. The flows are on point, lyricism that doubles as a history curriculum, and production from High Tech that blasts 98 Brooklyn through your speakers. What more could you ask for? The two originally planned on releasing solo albums around the time, but after realizing their chemistry was borderline telepathic, decided to postpone those projects and release this collab instead. Flying under the radar when it initially came out, Black Starr would quickly become an underground hip-hop staple, drawing universal critical acclaim. Bey and Kweli were looking like MJ and Pippin on tracks like Brown Skin Lady, Thieves in the Night, and Respiration, the latter of which sports an underrated Common feature. You know it's a good year in hip-hop when an album this solid still can't be called the best release of the year. While we love the subject matter, deliveries, and focus of the project, we believe all of those bases are covered on our number 1 pick, not to mention some extra musical versatility as the parsley on top. Hold up. We can't talk about Black Starr without talking about their 2022 follow-up to their self-titled debut. Fans who are familiar with the channel have already seen what we're talking about in our most disappointing albums of 2022 list, but revisiting the 98 classic only made the sequel that much more disappointing. 98's Black Starr was a flash-in-the-pan moment, 2 MCs at their lyrical peak. With no egos, just seamless chemistry and a shared vision. If their debut is the only Black Starr album you've heard, keep that intact. Remember them how they were. If you've finally given No Fear of Time a span though, let us know if we're overreacting or if a little piece of your 90s hip-hop childhood died like ours did. Number 1, Outcast Aquemini. Our favorite dynamic duo out the A did what few thought was possible. They eclipsed their sophomore LP with this seminal body of work. The album's conceptual evolution would take the group from extraterrestrial figures to rap juggernauts battling amongst the constellations. Joints like Rosa Parks, Slump, The Art of Storytelling, both of them, and Spodioli Dopalicious combine the duo's storytelling, lyricism, and unconventional flows in a way none of their other projects could. Combining their zodiac signs, Aquarius for Big Boy and Gemini for Andre, the group's dual personalities give the album both duality and nuance. It would debut at number 2 behind Hove's Hard Knock Life, but would be certified platinum in just 2 months, a clear indicator of the group's rising popularity and commercial appeal. Did you hear us though? JayZ, Outcast, A Tribe Called Quest, and Black Starr all dropped September 29th, 1998. Easily hip-hop's most prolific day since Midnight Marauders, Doggy Style, and 36 Chambers back in '93. Matter of fact, hold on just a second. Writing that down for a future video. Okay, cool. Where were we? Oh yeah, Dre and Big Boy initially planned on creating a film to go along with the album, completing a script a few months before its expected release. They met with MTV, and despite liking the film, the network wanted to buy the script and cast Busta Rhymes and Missy to lead the project due to their star power. The collaborative joint project would eventually evolve into Idlewild. With those four creative minds in play, we could have witnessed one of hip-hop's most creative and influential offerings to date. Oh, right, okay. Back to the album though, sorry. Started daydreaming. Aquemini has been praised for its versatile influences, sound, and ideas, touching on everything from blues and kalimba to Wu-Tang and George Clinton. It feels like there's a full circle moment in there somewhere. If you love music, we're sure you'll love our pick for the best album to come out in 1998, arguably one of the best to come out in a decade. All right, we're almost done asking you to jump in the comments. We just want to know how you would rank the duo's albums. Also, how many of their records get the classic 5 mic stamp of approval? Make sure you check our list of Outcast albums ranked to see what we thought. All right, Culturalist, that wraps up another ranking. As usual, share your thoughts with us down below. We read every one of the comments and welcome the discourse. If you like the video, then feel free to click that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to be invited to the family reunion. And while you're at it, see what that super thanks button is all about. It's your boy CJ Williams, bowing out for the culture. I'm out.